Next speaker that we are going to have here will be Tarık Yurt. Tarık is my like one of my oldest friends in the cloud, like maybe one of the first people who I know that doing something cool in cloud from our Opsgenie days, and he was always into security more than everyone else in the company as well. So his talk will cover that, and yeah, leaving it to gelmedi abi. Evet, geldi.
Hello. Is it nice in the back? Okay. So, for ransomware hackers, business is actually really booming. Globally, now there are 19 attacks per second, and per attack, there's an average 2.7 million ransom requests from attackers. Average downtime for businesses is around 24 days, when you average it overall. And by 2031, it is estimated that the actual damage of ransomware attacks will be around $265 billion. One of the recent victims was IKEA, or IKEA as we call it in Turkey. They were attacked right before Black Friday. They didn't pay the ransom, but the damages to restore the operations cost them $23 million. So, why is it so damaging, let's say? Why is it so costly? Because nowadays you can build your images again, you can build your binaries again, you can redeploy everything with all the automation tools and so, but you cannot bring your data back. That's the huge problem. And you might also wonder, what am I doing here? Everyone is talking about AI, Bedrock, LLMs, because the barrier right now for attackers is the lowest probably in the history, because you can learn everything, you can do everything, you can generate attack codes very easily. And also you can introduce more vulnerabilities into your code through LLM agents quite easily nowadays, unfortunately. So, why am I talking about this, or why you should listen to me? I've been in AWS ecosystem more than 8 years now. I'm working in a company called Beyzat. So we are responsible for infrastructure, data, and security within Beyzat, within the SRE team. I like to sleep sound at night, so we are automating everything as much as possible and securing everything as much as possible. Okay, let's get started. Let's start a business. We all heard news stories about how someone starts a business, right? It's an idea first. After idea, you come up with a quick POC, quick deployment somewhere. Probably you have something like this if it's web-based, internet-based. You have clients, you have load balancers, you have some instances that runs your code. You have backends such as RDS for database and S3 for object storage. Let's say your business is booming, it's getting a lot of files, it's getting a lot of things together, and you are getting a huge number of customers. So this is a reality for us, and this is the reality for a security engineer. A lot of vulnerabilities everywhere. Probably you have some operator somewhere that's red is not very readable, but let me go over. You have an operator somewhere that has some privileged, very privileged access. I hope you are not using your root account to access AWS, but even if you don't, probably you're using some administrative account, which are, again, vulnerable. You have open source vulnerabilities, you have access IAM permissions going around, you have zero attacks coming up every day. So, how a security engineer sees is like this. An attacker can compromise the system in multiple ways, but in the end, what they're trying to do is get access to a privileged AWS credential and conduct their attack from there. That's the basic idea. All the other fancy stuff are there. There can be social engineering, there can be remote code execution that exposes your EC2 instance credentials to someone else. They can send you an email and get your credentials easily. That can happen, unfortunately. So this is the main idea. Now we will go over some attack scenarios. Try to understand from attacker's perspective and what we can do about it. We will start from a simple one. Level 1, the simple attacker our simple attacker does not worry about much. He just deletes the data. That's all. Nothing else. Maybe they downloaded it. Maybe they didn't download, but we can't be sure. So what can we do about it? S3 has this bucket versioning where they keep versions of your files, of your objects for a period of time. Not period of time, sorry. If you don't configure it indefinitely and indefinite number of versions. So the story here is actually like this. One day you are getting notifications from your production that your clients cannot access objects. They are getting not even not found. They are getting something like 403, forbidden, which is very weird. You open your bucket, you look at your bucket, there's nothing. Empty bucket. Where did my files go? So the remediation here is actually enabling bucket versioning. And when you enable bucket versioning, S3 will keep old versions of your files one by one. If it's overwritten, S3 will keep it. If it's deleted, S3 will keep it. So what you can do is, you can just restore your objects to their previous state and continue. Conduct your business, that's all. Now, we are learning, we just learned bucket versioning, our attackers are learning too. Level 2 here, this one I call look but don't touch. So again, one day you are receiving the same notifications, right? Your clients cannot access files suddenly. You go check your bucket, and then you see the objects, you try to open them, but you have a nice error here. It says the object is encrypted with something that you don't have or you don't know. This is the proper ransomware attack. Attacker comes to your bucket, encrypts everything, and leaves you a small README file that says, okay, I encrypted everything. This is my wallet address, send me some crypto coins, and I will send you the key, that's all. Very easy. You try to copy the file, it doesn't work. You try to open it, it doesn't work. That's the idea. So, at this point, what do we do? This is the attack, actually. I should mention this, sorry. Here, attacker can use a local file, local encryption key, which they don't have to put into KMS. So, basically what we are used to is, we keep our keys in KMS, AWS Key Management Service, and encrypt everything with it. But attacker doesn't have to do it. They can use some alternative thing. I didn't want to be an example. So some alternative command here that says, okay, use this key, upload the file again. So they overwritten your files, and you cannot access them anymore right now. All right, so what do we do? If you have a rich boss, it's very easy. Send the money, get the key, and hopefully get the key, and access the files. Now, we can end this talk, or we can learn more what we are supposed to do. We just learned bucket versioning, and bucket versioning can let you actually revert your files back and continue. Business as usual, once again. The only problem here is you need to do this one by one. For all objects, you need to traverse your bucket. For all objects, you need to restore them. That's the main problem. Okay, now, we did already bucket version, but our now attacker is upgraded to a new level, and they know about bucket versioning. They can check the bucket configuration. They can check, because they have credentials now, probably. That's why we are trying to take these measures. So, what do? They disable the bucket versioning. They delete all the versions, and then encrypt everything. That's the idea. Now, what are we going to do? Here, we are going to talk more about S3 features. One of them is MFA. MFA on delete is an S3 feature, a part of S3 service product, let's say. So when you configure it, deleting an object permanently or disabling bucket versioning will require an MFA device. So you already have a principle that can run these operations, such as deleting an object or changing bucket configuration. Now you need to also open your authenticator app and find an OTP and provide it. Not over even console, you have to do it over CLI. It doesn't work with console, you have to do it with API, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, it's a good thing. So it comes with a problem. And the problem is life cycles. Why do we care about life cycles? There are S3 life cycles that you can configure, and they come very handy with the versions I just mentioned. So in a lifecycle policy, you can say, okay, keep the last 10 versions of my object, not before. Otherwise, we are paying all the updates we did on the object, basically. So if you are just updating same objects over and over and over again, you are just paying for how many versions there are, not just the object count. That multiplies, actually, storage cost, not quadruples, not, I don't know the other Latin numbers. So MFA on delete does not work with lifecycles, one issue. The other one is if your case requires grammatically deleting these files, again, you will need that MFA code to do that in your application. That's the second problem. It works. The third problem is, as I said, don't use root account. MFA requires, configuring MFA on delete requires root account specifically. You have to log in with root account and do configure with that. So now our attacker is upgrading little by little. They can again disable the MFA, disable bucket versioning, and go back to business. Which is possible, which is another attack surface when you introduce new things, right? Now, we have a more primitive solution now, backup bucket. So basically, it's a very simple idea. You back up your data to somewhere else and keep your data there. Duplicate everything, all operations. All CRUD operations can be duplicated. S3 replication rules enable us to do this. You do everything in the main bucket. This backup bucket can be in a same account or a different account. Can be in the same region or a different. You saw next level, sorry. Yeah. It can be in the same account or a different account. It can be same region or a different region. You can combine these with your compliance rules if you have any. So if you have some cross-region requirement, you can do it. What is the issue? You are doubling the storage cost, basically. All versions in the main bucket go to the second version too. Both of them have to have bucket versioning, then you need to configure lifecycle. Now you have more area to manage. You need to configure both buckets, you need to secure both buckets, you need to pay for both buckets, basically. It's the same thing, right? Well, we are gonna have another attacker, but before that, I wanna talk about how you can enable MFA. You can combine these ideas. I didn't try this practically, by the way, but theoretically it seems viable. Again, we don't log in with root users, so it wasn't very easy to try for me. So what do? We can configure our main bucket, then set up a backup bucket, and configure MFA in the backup bucket, which would be easier because we can do normal operations and we can say, okay, MFA will keep my data safe. Then problems arise again. Storage cost, more things to manage, and we need to delete from backup bucket. How are we gonna do that? So, our attacker is getting better now. They are in a dungeon, getting experience. Now, attacker can just attack the first backup bucket, destroy the backup, destroy the replication, destroy the backup, and then go back to the main bucket, do everything else again. Disable versioning, delete all versions. Now what are we gonna do? S3 has something called object locking. This is the last S3 feature we're gonna talk about. Object locking is a bit, as you can read, extreme. It prevents S3 objects from being deleted or overwritten for a fixed amount of time or indefinitely. This is literally documentation, so you can enable it, but it comes with this cost. You cannot delete them. Let's say you configured this, and let's say accidentally, someone said indefinitely. Someone chose indefinitely. We cannot overwrite or not delete them. One can assume that when I delete the bucket, they will go away, right? No. Sorry. You cannot delete the bucket. If you are an admin, you cannot delete the bucket. If you are a user, you cannot delete the bucket. You can delete the account. That's the idea. So if you delete the account, the data will be gone. Your data will be safe, but let's say you had a configuration error, or you had another attacker who saw your configuration and said, okay, I'm gonna bankrupt you, and put a lot of files in your bucket. Either you're gonna pay a lot of money, Or you're going to move your workflow to another account, which can be costly, which can take time, or you're going to pay for S3 for a long while. So, object locking is nice if your use case allows it, and if you are ready to face the consequences. Now, we're going to talk about AWS Backup, which will come handy with this attacker too. AWS Backup is a generic service. It's not S3 related. It can cover all the services you see on the left, on the right for you. It can be continuous or periodic. Periodic for, I think, EBS and S3. For the other ones, it works like snapshots. It does the things you expect from a backup tool, such as job monitoring, restore testing. It literally restores your bucket, tests if it's restorable or not, and then notifies you for that. It can move your snapshots into cold storage, and so on. It can copy to another account, which we use actually. Source type's okay. And it can expire these snapshots, let's call them. We're going to call them something different now. Vault is a new service with a new terminology. So this is backup. And we can use we can use backup service to take snapshots of our buckets, basically. When you open, now, this is a vault. They call it a vault, like a safe vault in a bank. And these are recovery points that you can go back to. All of them have time. I didn't have screen space to take them, but you can go back to them. And these partials it means they are continuous. So it doesn't cost that much, according to them. Now, what are we going to do to remediate this situation where everything is gone and I want to restore things? I have recovery points. I can click any of them and say restore the bucket. It will take probably a couple of hours to restore everything. But I'm going to have my bucket over there. So we can change our services to use the new bucket and continue the business operations. That's all. Vault Backup helps us do this, basically. All right. Probably you're guessing what's coming next. Our attacker is now a vault trader. They know about backup, and they have the credentials for some reason. And now they can delete the backup vaults. They can delete the recovery points. They can disable the backup process again, and do the same. Delete, encrypt everything, whatever your preferences. What are we going to do? Well, this is another backup thing now. This is cross-account replication for I mentioned just a second ago, but you can copy your backups into another account. You can keep them there. You can keep that account safe. And as long as that account is safe, you are safe. You can restore from that and go back to business. There's a second one. Why is it second one? It's a bit complicated and a bit comes with cost implications once again. So there are vault locks. Similar to object locking, there are vault locks. When you enable them, you cannot delete recovery points. You cannot change vault configuration. You cannot stop something. There are two modes, governance and compliance, very similarly. Compliance will require us to delete the account again, of course. So it locks your recovery points for a number of days. That's the main idea. So when you enable governance, tried and confirmed, you cannot manually delete everything. You have to wait. Or you need to disable the vault lock, which you can do. If you have the permission, you can disable vault lock and continue. This is the same for both. If you have compliance, so this has a grace period. AWS very reasonably does not allow you to enable it from day 0. When you click it, I don't know if you can read here. It says from this, choose a compliance period, which is at least 3 days. Sorry, grace time, which is at least 3 days. Because after this, you cannot change this configuration. You cannot disable it. You have to remove the account again. So let's say you have some faulty action that caused a lot of data generation, and your S3 bucket is now huge, and this AWS backup thingy is taking snapshots of everything. You have to wait for that retention period to be able to remove them now. If it's 30 days, you're going to pay for 30 days. If it's 90 days, you're going to pay for it 90 days. That's the idea. And you cannot disable it, as I mentioned again. It cannot be altered or deleted by a customer, account data owner, blah, blah, blah. So basically, it's immutable. How do we stop it? Well, we cannot remove the backup. Sorry, we cannot remove the recovery points that are in the retention period, but we can remove the resource association that backup calls, which is just telling AWS, do not back this up anymore. You can say that. Again, we need to wait for retention period for everything to go away. So if our attacker is doing this, they can stop the process, but we will still have something until that retention period expires. And probably you get notified about it, right? Until that time. Let's say it's 30 days. If you don't know in 30 days, everything is gone, there's a problem. There's another attack type. Now, is this the simplistic one or the anarchist one? I don't know, because there's a very thin line in between. They just delete the KMS keys. That's all. Because everything is in KMS. Everything is encrypted with keys in KMS. And preferably, I hope you are using customer-managed keys, which is the better way overall. And an attacker can delete it as well as you can. When they delete it, what can happen, everything goes. Everything's gone. So KMS has a deletion grace period, which is minimum 7 days. So if an attacker deletes that, or let's say you are the accidental attacker, you accidentally delete a key, which we never did. We are scared of touching those delete button, actually, even if there's the period of this. You have to roll it back or cancel it. Yeah, you have to cancel it in 7 days. Otherwise, everything encrypted with that key are gone. So we need to know, right? We need to know something happens. We need to know replication stopped. We need to know keys are deleted. We need to know things happen. That's where AWS Cloudtrail comes in. So it lets you be aware of everything. When we were introducing this, we said, if someone coughs, if someone sneezes accidentally in our account, we're going to know about it. Of course, we didn't do that because when you enable Cloudtrail with KMS API calls, it's going to be a lot of cost. So we didn't do that. But other than that, everything is good. You can set up alarms for unwanted actions. When you configure Cloudtrail to stream the logs into CloudWatch, then you can say, okay, I want to be notified about this, which is when backups replication stop, I really want to know about it. If KMS keys are deleted, definitely call me. If there are lots of S3 actions, it is a bit tricky to configure, but it is configurable. But yeah, so what we do is, there is Cloudtrail, there is CloudWatch. I'm going to talk an actual workflow now. We have Datadog. We have Opsgenie connected to all of them. If one of them cannot notify us, the other one will definitely do. So let's wrap up. When we talk about security or the initial things I talked about, generally what comes to mind is secure the entry points. It's going to be done. It's going to be okay. Generally, that's what we do, right? We add a firewall. We add extra security measures. We secure the endpoints. We use HTTPS. So, but what we should do is we need to secure entry points and the data so that we can go back. We can restore our business and continue. I tried to showcase it, but attackers can do everything you can, basically. If your EC2 instance has a privilege, they can expose it. If you as an operator has a privilege, it is possible. I'm scared to log in from my console, actually. I have to do it, but yeah, we keep everything. We are trying to keep everything safe. And the last one, which should be apparent now, risk cost versus remediation cost. So everything I talked about comes with a cost. Either you pay for the service cost, which is backup. Either you pay for the storage cost, which can be S3 itself. You can pay for the Cloudtrail which you do a lot. It stays 7 years. And you need to compare it with what you are going to lose. You don't have to do this for everything. Or you can just be okay with, okay, I'm going to just enable the bucket versions. I'm going to set up a lifecycle policy which keeps the last 10 versions. For this bucket, that's okay. Or not just S3, for example. Think about OpenSearch. For our case, we can rebuild our OpenSearch index probably in a couple of hours. So for us, it doesn't make really much sense to just, at this point today, it doesn't make that much sense to back it up, establish all this process, introduce vault lock and copy to another backup account, etc. So it doesn't make that much sense. So yeah, make your comparison, make your risk evaluation, and decide what to do. That's all.
Thank you, Tarık, for the presentation. If there's any question, we can take them now. If there is none, there's one. Okay.
Hi, Tarık. Thank you for presentation. I wonder which one is cheaper for backupping S3, S3. Is it cheaper to make a shadow copy to another bucket or using the AWS Backup service?
So backup, I don't really know the final answer, but backup has a different tiering for each service. And generally, it's cheaper because in S3 data is ready to query. In backup, it's not. You have to restore it first. In S3, I mean, at our scale, we don't really worry about storage. We really worry about API calls. Because S3 costs us, charges us more for the API calls right now than for the storage. It changes for every region, so you can quickly use the AWS calculator to find it out.
Okay, thank you so much.
No worries.
Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question? Okay.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I want to ask that I'm coming from the developer side of the development, and I wonder that how do you make those risk assessments, risk evaluations, since there are so many kind of vulnerabilities and so many kind of attacks? How do you make sure enough to say that you are safe?
Yeah, it's not easy. So if we can somehow get the data back or retrieve it somewhere else, let's say, if you can ask your clients to re-upload their documents, you're safe. You can just say, okay, some simple versioning is enough for me. That's depends on your business a lot. That's what I can say. When I first started, we were in the gaming industry with Peak Games. So when something happened, we were just giving gold to everyone. Everyone was happy, you know? So if your use case is something like this, it's easier. If your use case is people uploading passwords and you keep them safe, etc., then exposing the data is something else, but losing the data is another thing. Maybe you are going to go really bankrupt. Then you might want to do a better backup process.
Thank you again, Tarık.